Hello everyone, welcome back to my video. This video is the part 2 of our discussion on provisions of customs law. If you want to access the part 1 of the video, kindly click on the link that flashes above. Okay, let us continue to the video. In this video, I will be discussing on the different types of duties that are levied under customs law. The very important the relevant act here is Customs Tariff Act 1975. Any duties that are levied under customs law, for the rates, for that you will have to refer to Customs Tariff Act 1975. So that is where you will get the rate of duties that will be charged under customs law. So what we will be discussing in this video is what are all the different types of duties that can be levied under the customs law. So we already understand that duties under customs law will be levied on transaction of imports and exports. If there is any transaction of imports or if there is any transaction of exports, there will be a duty levied on that. That duty is called customs duty. Okay, so what are all the types of duties under customs act? The types of duties under customs act can be broadly categorized under two heads. One is import head, that is duties that are levied on imports. Second one is duties that are levied on exports. Duties levied on imports are called import duties. Duties levied on exports are called export duties. Under import duties, what are all the different heads of duty that will be levied when there is an import? The first type of duty is called BCD. BCD is nothing but basic customs duty. That is what the first level of duty that will be levied on any imports. Second level of duty will be protective duties. Third level of duty is called as safeguard duty. When I say level, it is not that all these duties will be levied at each and every imports. See, this protective duties and safeguard duties can be levied only at for different some specific type of imports, but basic customs duty will be levied on all the imports unless it is specifically exempted by any notification or under the customs law. If it is exempted, otherwise basic customs duty will be levied on all imports. Second one is protective duties, that will be levied only on certain type of imports. Third is the safeguard duty. Safeguard duty also will be levied on certain types of imports. Fourth one is called as CVD. CVD is the short form for countervailing duty. See, countervailing duty is some additional duty. We will discuss in detail what is countervailing duty in our in some point of time of this video. Next type of duty we will be discussing is anti-dumping duty. The short form of anti-dumping duty will be referred as ADD in our video. Next one is IGST, and the last part of the duty can be GST compensation cess. So we can see that around 7 types of duties that can be levied under the import duty on the goods that are being imported. In the case of exports, there will be a levy called export duty, and the rates of export duty will be mentioned in second schedule of Customs Tariff Act 1975. And as of today, only on few products there is a duty levied on exports. See, otherwise whatever the goods that are being exported, if at all there is any duty, that duty can be claimed as a duty drawback. See, there is no net expenses for an exporter. Though there could be some duty levied on the goods that are being exported, but that can be available as a drawback for the exporter. But for the items which we are listed out here, on these items, if there is any levy of export duty, that levy of export duty cannot be claimed as a duty drawback, or you cannot claim any rebate on that export duty, or there cannot be any exemption as well. So this is what all about import duty and export duty. And the products listed under this export duty are: first one is de-oiled rice bran or oil cakes. Second one is luggage leather. Third one is a normal raw leather. Fourth one is snake skins. Fifth one is a ferrous waste. and sixth one is called as raw fur lamb skins. So these are all the products on which duty on exports are levied. Okay, so before we get into the discussion about the detail of each type of duty, let us understand one major amendments under this types of duties. The major amendment was issued with effect from 2nd February 2018. So these are all the amendments that takes place from 2nd February 2018. First amendment is there will be some surcharge, there will be some additional surcharge called as social welfare surcharge. So this social welfare surcharge is it will be charged, or it will be calculated on the basic customs duty. The rate of SWS is 10%, and 10% surcharge will be calculated on the basic customs duty. See, whenever I say that there is a surcharge will not be calculated on the assessable value of the goods. It will be calculated on any tax or duties only. So in this case, social welfare surcharge, which is at the rate of 10%, that will be calculated on basic customs duty that are levied on the goods that are being imported. Clear or not? So in addition to basic customs duty, whenever you charge any BCD, you will have to automatically charge SWS on BCD. That is a very major amendment, or which is a new introduction with effect from 2nd of February 2018. Next amendment is, because of there being a surcharge charged on BCD, there was a levy called as educational cess and secondary and higher educational cess. See, these cess are not new to our system. You could have seen this cess in even under Income Tax Act. Even this cess will be calculated on income taxes as well. Similarly, these cess were calculated on customs duty. That charging of that cess was discontinued from 2nd of February 2018. From 2nd of February, you will not calculate any cess on BCD, but you will calculate SWS. Instead of charging a cess, they are charging a 10% of SWS. Because cess was only 3%, that 3% has been enhanced to 10%, and collectively it is being called as social welfare surcharge. Okay. And one another duty, a new duty also was introduced with effect from the same date. That duty is being called as road and infrastructure duty. See, this particular duty is not charged on all the products or all the goods. This duty is charged only on import of any motor spirit, which is in the nature of petrol, as well as import of high speed diesel, which we call it as HSD. If the product which is getting imported is a petrol or a diesel, then there will be a additional duty will be charged on that. That duty is called road and infrastructure duty, and the rate of the duty is rupees 8 per liter. They are not expressing this duty in percentage. They say that whatever is the rate you are importing it, the rate of duty will have to pay is rupees 8 per liter. So these are all the three major amendments which is effective from 2nd of February 2018. Okay, so with this we will now enter into the discussion about different types of duties. The first type of duty we will be discussing is the basic customs duty. Basic customs duty is the very substantial part of it, which is very duty which is to be charged on any type of imports. Okay, BCD shall be the levy of BCD takes the power from section 12, which we have already discussed in our part 1 of the video. Section 12 is covered in part 1 of the video. So under section 12 of the Customs Act 1962, it empowers the government to charge a duty on any imports or exports. That duty is called as customs duty, which we are referring here as basic customs duty. So section 12 says basic customs duty has to be charged on imports or exports of goods, and the rate of duty is at standard rate. If you want to refer the rate for different types of goods, then you will have to refer to Customs Tariff Act 1975. though that even that act is also provided in section 12 itself. Then there is what we are going to discuss now is a benefit of preferential rate is available for the importer. If a person imports certain goods, then he can opt for a preferential rate for this value of import. That preferential rate can be opted if the following conditions are satisfied. He will have to satisfy the following conditions in order to apply preferential rate for the imports which he is doing. So the conditions are, first condition is he has to make a specific claim for applying the preferential rate for the imports. The first thing is he will have to make a claim, he will have to apply for that claim. Second is import must be from preferential area notified by government. Government has notified certain areas as preferential areas. If you are importing goods from those preferential areas, then you are eligible to apply for this preferential rate. So if the goods are imported from a preferential area and the importer wants to apply for that preferential rate, then he has to make a claim to the government. And goods to be produced or manufactured in such preferential area, whatever the goods that are being imported into India from the preferential area, those goods should have been manufactured and produced from that preferential area. It should not enter into the preferential area from some other country. I can give you an example. If country China is called as preferential area, if it is notified as preferential area, then the goods which you are importing from China is eligible for preferential rate. Okay, but one of the condition here is the goods which you are getting imported, that should have been manufactured inside China. If the goods are procured from some other country, you can call it as Malaysia. If the goods are imported from Malaysia to China, from China it is getting imported to India, then the benefit of preferential rate is not available. That is what the conditions for availing the benefit of preferential rate. Okay, once this basic customs duty is charged, I told you that you will have to automatically charge a surcharge on that. That surcharge is called a social welfare surcharge. The social welfare surcharge has to be charged at the rate of 10% on the imports that are calculated on the basic customs duty. The surcharge, this particular surcharge can be reduced to 3% if the goods that are being imported are gold or silver or platinum coated goods. Okay, these are all the list of goods. If these goods are getting imported into India, then the surcharge will not be charged at the rate of 10%. You will have a concessional rate of surcharge which is at the rate of 3%. Okay, so it shall be calculated on all duties charged and collected under section 12 of the Act. It says that this surcharge has to be calculated on all the duties that are charged and collected under section 12 of the Act. Section 12 empowers any authority to charge customs duty. For that you will have to refer to Customs Tariff Act. If any other duty is also being charged under section 12, then this social welfare surcharge has to be calculated including that duty as well. Okay, that is what provided when this surcharge was introduced. Then now we will discuss about certain exclusions from duty for SWS calculation. SWS, I am referring it as social welfare surcharge. For these are all the items you need not calculate social welfare surcharge. The first item is the safeguard duty under section 8B and 8C of the Customs Tariff Act. If you are charging, if the goods is chargeable under safeguard duty, then SWS will not be calculated on safeguard duty. Second is SWS will not be calculated on countervailing duty on subsidized articles that are covered under section 9 of Customs Tariff Act. If any duty that is charged under section 9 of Customs Tariff Act, then SWS will not be calculated on that duty amount. Third is anti-dumping duty that are calculated under section 9A of Customs Tariff Act. Even on anti-dumping duty you will not calculate SWS. Then on IGST you will not calculate SWS, as well as on the GST compensation cess. So on all these items you will not calculate SWS because these items are not levied as per section 12 of Customs Tariff Act. These items are levied as per the different sections. That is the reason SWS will not be calculated on all these duties. That is all about first type of duty. Second type of duty is integrated goods and service tax, which is nothing but IGST. Okay, the relevant act for this IGST is GST Act 2017, which we already know that IGST Act 2017 is the base act for this IGST, but we already understood in our GST subject that for any imports are called as interstate supply. It is deemed as an interstate supply. Once you take a supply as interstate supply, then the relevant tax to be charged on that supply is integrated goods and service tax. IGST has to be charged. Since we are speaking on the aspect of imports, IGST is the only relevant tax that can be charged here. IGST is charged on customs law on goods imported under section 3 subsection 9 of Customs Tariff Act. Whatever the goods that are getting imported under section 3 subsection 9, see, almost all the goods are getting covered under that, except some few which are exempted from that section. So otherwise IGST has to be charged on that. That is also provided under Customs Tariff Act. Second is this particular tax has subsumed the erstwhile duties, which was called as a countervailing duty and a special countervailing duty. Before introduction of IGST, there was a duty called as countervailing duty and special countervailing duty. Two duties were calculated at those times before the introduction of IGST. I will just give a small brief about what are all these duties called. See, countervailing duty is nothing but it is the excise duty. See, if the same goods are manufactured in India, then it is liable for a levy of excise duty on that. If you know that there was a law called excise law, and excise duty will be charged on any goods that are getting manufactured in India. If you are opting to purchase the same goods from outside India, it means that if you want to import that goods, then the excise duty, the charge of excise duty will not be there. In order to cover those goods as well which are not manufactured in India, for that this customs law charges an additional duty called as countervailing duty. This is nothing but it is for the compensation of loss of revenue from excise tax. That is countervailing duty. Second one is special countervailing duty. Special countervailing duty is charged in place of the sales tax. We were having different sales tax before this GST. That sales tax was called as central sales tax as well as state VAT. So those two laws was there, separate laws was there, and those laws were combined. All this excise duty, CST Act as well as the state VAT Act, all these law have been combined and made as a single act, which is called as GST Act. That is the reason this IGST has subsumed that CVD and special CVD, because that CVD and special CVD does not have any relevance today. Next one is IGST has to be charged on all the imports that are done from 1st of June 2017. If the imports are done on 1st of June 2017 and from that date, there should be a charge of IGST on that. I can give you some scenario here. If the goods are if the goods have arrived into India on 1st of June 2017, then you will not charge the CVD and special CVD, you will charge only IGST on that. We already understood in our part 1 of the video what is the taxable event in case of imports. The taxable event in case of imports is crossing of the customs barrier, that we understood by referring to the Supreme Court judgment on this. So crossing of customs barrier has happened on 1st of June 2017. If the bill of entry, if the bill of entry has been filed on 29th of June itself, that is 2 days before 1st of July 2017, then whether this IGST will be charged? Yes, IGST will be charged on that, because the taxable event is later, and this was discussed under section 15 itself. Under section 15, what is the taxable rate? We will have to refer the rate. For determination of rate, you will have to refer the later date of filing of bill of entry as well as date of arrival of the goods. Whichever is later among these two dates, that date is what you will take it as relevant date for determination of rate of duty. For this purpose, if the goods have been if the goods have arrived on 1st of July 2017, and if the bill of entry has been filed even before that, then also you will have to charge only IGST. Okay, then anti-dumping duty and safeguard duty shall be added to the value for calculating IGST. See, this calculation of IGST, for this IGST will be calculated on what? On the value of the goods. This value will include what? It will include basic customs duty, as well as it will include a safeguard duty and anti-dumping duty. All these duties, if applicable, will be added to the value for the purpose of valuation, for charging this IGST. Have we discussed this part somewhere? Yes, we have discussed this part in our valuation chapter. Under valuation chapter, under section 15, we saw that any tax that are charged by any other act, that will be included in the valuation for your reference. So IGST will be charged on all the taxes and duties that are levied or charged by any other act other than GST Act. Okay, so IGST will be calculated on all the on the assessable value, on the value of the goods, plus whatever the duties we are levying under this Customs Act. So we will quickly discuss one case law under this concept. This case law was case law is on the taxpayer, namely Aided Tourism Services Private Limited, and the decision was provided by Honorable Supreme Court. Okay, what was the decision here? The the facts of the case here is, if there is any exemption for IGST, if the goods that are manufactured in India, and if there is any notification of exemption of IGST not on IGST, if there is any exemption of GST itself on those goods, if that goods are manufactured in India, whether the same exemption will be applicable on the goods that are being imported into India. Okay, what is the question here? If there is any exemption applicable on a particular goods, if the goods are manufactured in India, whether the same exemption is applicable if the goods have been imported into India. Here the decision, Supreme Court says that yes, it is applicable. If the goods, the GST is exempted on certain goods, if the goods are manufactured in India, same exemption has to be extended for the goods which are being imported in India also. So whether or not it is manufactured in India or imported into India, the exemption, once the goods are exempted from GST, it is exempted. Okay, you cannot take a different stand. Okay, that is all about second type of duty which we discussed as IGST, and the third type of duty we'll be discussing is GST compensation cess. What is this GST compensation cess? This cess is charged mostly on any high-end luxury items, or it will be charged on some goods which are demerit to the society or for the environment. I can give you an example. High-end luxury items are nothing but if the items which you are importing, if it is some luxury cars, branded luxury cars, that is called as high-end luxury items. That is one category. Second category is items that are hazardous for the environment. I can tell you like tobacco, pan masala. So these are all the items which are hazardous for the environment. On these items as well, there will be a cess calculated on that. This cess is actually nothing but it is a compensation provided to the states for losing some additional taxes on that. Before introducing this GST, the charging of sales tax was with the hands of states. We already know that VAT law is governed by respective states. Respective states have different VAT laws, and all the rates and everything has been governed by them. At those times, what happened, the respective states, they were having a different types of duties. They were having additional duties in order to protect the environment, in order to discourage persons from spending on these luxury items, as well as spending money on using this hazardous items. So for that, they were charging higher duty. For this purpose, if the GST has been introduced, what will happen? They will be losing revenue on those part. That is the reason they have introduced a new cess called GST compensation cess. This cess will be charged on these type of items, and the revenue from that cess will be shared, or it will be provided to the respective states. Okay, that is what the purpose of this GST compensation cess. This GST compensation cess is also charged under the GST Act only. This GST compensation cess, I can tell you, is the final amount of cess that will be calculated under GST Act. This will be even for the purpose of customs, this GST compensation cess is the last part. After charging all the duties, then you will charge IGST, then you will charge GST compensation cess. But one point you will have to note here is, GST compensation cess will not be calculated on the IGST part of it. For the purpose of value, for this purpose, you should not include IGST in that. But otherwise, all the other taxes and duties charged under Customs Act has to be included, except IGST, for the calculation of this GST compensation cess. Clear? Once the GST compensation cess is paid, the same is available as input tax credit. Similar to IGST being available as input tax credit, even GST compensation cess is available as input tax credit. But only condition here is, the ITC on this cess can be utilized only against the output liability of the same compensation cess only. It cannot be used interchangeably. So compensation cess ITC cannot be used for the liability on IGST itself. Okay, the ITC on compensation cess can be utilized only against liability on compensation cess. That is very clear here. Okay, so I can even give you a list where GST compensation cess is applicable. The list here says that the first item in the list is coal. If the coal is getting imported, then there is a GST rate specified on that coal is 5%, and the cess has to be calculated on that. Why compensation cess is calculated on coal? Because coal is also creates a lot of hazard to the environment. There is a bigger pollution generated out of coal. That is the reason they wanted to charge some higher duty for that, just as a compensation to it. So this cess on this coal is nothing but it is charged at the rate of rupees 400 per ton. Okay, and there is a ceiling also provided. The ceiling is also nothing but the same 400 per ton. Okay, the second item is pan masala. Pan masala GST rate itself is the highest rate, which is 28%. On top of that, there will be a cess, GST compensation cess, at the rate of 60%, and it can go up to the maximum of 135%, because they want to strictly prevent from people using this pan masala. That is the reason they wanted to charge higher rate on this. Third item is the tobacco. Tobacco also has the higher rate of GST, and it also suffers, in addition to GST, it also suffers this compensation cess at the rate of 61%, which may go up to 204%, which is very higher. They strictly want to discourage people from using tobacco products. And there is a ceiling provided. Ceiling says that rupees 4,170 for every 1,000 rupees. If the tobacco products are purchased for 1000 rupees, then the cess can be the maximum cess that can be charged on that 1000 rupees is nothing but 4170. I can tell you which is nothing but 417% of it, which is very higher part of it. Okay, and the fourth item is aerated drinks. Aerated drinks are nothing but like your processed drinks or processed cool drinks, which is your Coca-Cola, your Pepsi, Fanta. So all these products which are all the example for aerated drinks. On this aerated drinks also there is a cess of 12% and the maximum ceiling is 15%. And the next one is motor vehicles. Motor vehicles will suffer a GST of 28%, and the cess may be charged starting from 1% up to 22%. So this is what the list of items on which GST compensation cess will be charged. And we also have to note down here that if ADD or SD, ADD is nothing but anti-dumping duty, SD is nothing but safeguard duty. If these duties are also levied, then value for IGST and GST cess will include these duties. This we already discussed. And another point to note here is this was a change after introduction of GST law. See, previously under VAT Act or under CST Act, we were charging countervailing duty as well as special CVD. I told you we just now discussed in our previous slide. So on those respective acts, these anti-dumping duty or safeguard duty will not be included in the value for computing this CVD or special CVD. But under GST Act, all these duties has to be included for the purpose of valuation for charging IGST and GST compensation cess as well. That is, these are all very important points to note when we are discussing about GST compensation cess. Okay, so under this concept, let us quickly discuss one example question for you to better understand these provisions. Okay, the question here is X transport company imported Rolls-Royce car for the purpose of providing output services. What is Rolls-Royce car? Rolls-Royce car is some high-end luxury car. So immediately on seeing this name, you should start inferring that there will be a GST compensation cess on this particular product. And this particular car is imported for the purpose of providing output services by way of transportation of passengers. This car is not for imported for personal purpose. It is imported for business purpose, and the business here is for transportation of passengers. And they have provided you with the cost. The cost of vehicle is around 3 crore rupees, and the customs duty applicable on this product is 10%, and IGST applicable is 28%, and there is a GST compensation cess that is applicable at the rate of 20%. Whether this 20% is within the limit, we just now discussed on our list of items that it has an item called motor vehicles, and the compensation cess can be ranging from 1% to 22%. It will be notified for different types of products. So for this product, the GST compensation is within that limit, which is 20% here. And X transport company is eligible to take input tax credit. They are saying that they are eligible to take input tax credit, and they have an output IGST liability for INR of 1 crore 20 lakh rupees. Okay, they already have a GST output liability. So what we have to do is we have to calculate the tax liability towards customs duty and GST liability. So the answer for this question can be given in the following manner. The step 1 is we will have to calculate the applicable taxes on this import. What are all the applicable taxes? The first thing we have to take is the cost of the vehicle. The cost of vehicle is already provided, which is 3 crore rupees. And on this cost of the vehicle, the first item we will be charging is the basic customs duty. Basic customs duty is at the rate of 10% and will be calculated on 3 crore rupees, and the value will be you will be getting is 30 lakh rupees. Immediately on after you calculate customs duty, you will have to calculate social welfare surcharge. There was no information provided in the example, but it is just this surcharge is some automatic levy which you will have to charge on basic customs duty, whether or not it is provided in the example or if it is provided in the question. Okay, so there will be a surcharge at the rate of 10%, and that surcharge will be calculated on the value of customs duty only. It will not be calculated on the assessable value of the goods, that is not on the value of goods. So 30 lakhs on the 10% will be calculated, which will you will be getting 3 lakh rupees. So total cost after charging customs duty will come to you around 3 crore and 33 lakh rupees. After you get this value, then if at all there is any anti-dumping duty or if there is any safeguarding duty, then you will have to charge that as well. But here there is no information about that, so we will not be charging any such duties here. Then IGST will be calculated at the rate of 28% on 3 crore 33 lakh rupees, which you will be getting as 93 lakh 24,000 rupees. After that you will be charging GST compensation cess. As I told you, for the value for this GST compensation cess should not include the value of IGST. So again you will be calculating 20% on 3 crore and 33 lakh rupees only, which you will be getting 66 lakh 60,000. So all these things put together, the total landing cost of the product is nothing but 4 crore and 92 lakhs 84,000. 3 crore value of material has become 4 crore and 92 lakhs because of all this levy. Around 1 crore and 92 lakhs levy is being made by government here. So there is so what is the landing cost? 4 crore and 92 lakhs, and we will discuss some important points in this question. One is GST cess is not available as set off for the IGST liability. See, in the problem they have provided that 1 crore and 20 lakhs of IGST liability is already there for the person. Here we have a compensation cess of 66 lakh 60,000 rupees. But this compensation cess, which is available as input tax credit for the importer, but it cannot be used for set off their output liability of IGST. It can be utilized only against output liability of compensation cess. So in this problem we do not have any output liability of compensation cess. So ITC we will be carrying it separately, but we will not set it off. So if compensation cess is not available, then you can 93 lakh 24,000, which is the amount of GST, it is available as ITC for the importer here. Whether the ITC is available on this IGST, we will have to do a small analysis on this. See, input tax credit is available on any items which are on the taxes paid on purchase of any items. That is what the basic concept of input tax credit. But you can refer to section 17 subsection 5 of CGST Act, which speaks about blocked credits. Blocked credits mean nothing but if the purchase of the items which are listed under that section, then you will not be eligible for ITC. One among the item is purchase of motor vehicles which has a capacity of up to 13 passengers. That is one among the item. But you can note that under that item you will have a clause. That clause says if the motor vehicle which has a lesser passenger than 13 persons, if that motor vehicle is purchased for the purpose of providing output service of transportation of passengers, then ITC on that product is available. Since the Rolls-Royce is purchased for the purpose of providing transportation services, that is the reason IGST is available on this. No, the ITC of IGST is available for the importer. If the importer has imported this Rolls-Royce car for his personal purposes, then the tax paid in the nature of IGST on this import will not be available as ITC for the person. Okay, that is a very important analysis here. Once we do this analysis, then what is the net amount of IGST payable? We can reduce this 93 lakh 24,000 from 1 crore 20 lakhs of output liability, and the net amount payable by the importer is 26 lakh 76,000. Okay, that is how this question is answered here. Okay, let us continue with next provisions. Now we will discuss notification 34/2018 issued under customs law, and it was issued on 30th September 2019. What does this notification say? The notification says that if there is any import of goods as per para 1B or para 5F of schedule 2 of CGST Act with regard to aircrafts, aircraft engines or any other aircraft parts on temporary basis is exempted from IGST under Customs Act 1962. So what is the summary of this? The notification is trying to say here, The notification says if there is any import of goods. What are all the goods? The goods are nothing but any aircrafts, aircraft engines, or any other aircraft spare parts. If these goods are imported, in the nature of I know the nature of transaction referred to in para 1b or para 5f. What is para 1b? Para 1b of schedule 2 of CGST Act says if there is any supply of items without transfer of title, without transfer of ownership on the items, it means what? You are getting the items for the purpose of on the basis of renting. See, there is no transfer of title here. It means that supply without transfer means the items are supplied as a on rental basis. If the aircrafts are taken on rent and the aircraft are imported, means what? It has been brought into India, okay, and on temporary basis. It means what? It is as it is taken on rent, it is only on temporary basis. You will not have a permanent rental on that. It is taken on an operating lease. You have not taken the aircraft on finance lease. That is also very important here. So that is as per para 1b. What is para 5f? Para 5f says that if there is any goods that are taken on rent on payment of any cash or any other valuable items for any consideration, if there is any goods that are being taken. Okay, so these two para, which is with regard to aircraft only, not for all the products. If that is taken, then IGST is exempted under customs law. You need not charge IGST on that. That is first item. Second item is rigs and ancillary items. Rigs are nothing but you can find that there will be a bigger machinery, which is nothing but a machinery which is used for extracting oil in the middle of the ocean. You can find that there are some oil rigs which is situated in the middle of the ocean. That oil rigs are situated for the purpose of extracting oil from the ocean. So if any rigs or any ancillary items that are taken on lease, that are also exempted under IGST. See, if you have imported the rigs on lease basis, then IGST will not be applicable on that. Okay, that these two items is what is exempted from IGST by way of this notification. But for claiming this exemption, there are certain conditions. See, whenever you refer to any law, if at all any law provides you with any benefit, it will have some conditions attached to it. Terms and conditions always apply whenever there is any benefit in a law. So whenever you see any benefit, whenever you see any exemption, immediately you should search for any terms and conditions for claiming that exemption. You cannot take that exemption on a blanket basis. So here also there are certain conditions attached to it. The conditions are there should be a bond executed by the importer. The person who imports these products, he has to execute a bond with the customs authorities. The bond should be executed on what? The importer should guarantee that the items that are imported on rental basis, on lease basis, he will not sell the goods. He will not sell those items to some other person without any prior permission of the commissioner. He has imported, he will use it, he will have to return it back once the tenure gets over. If at all he wants to transfer this goods to some other person within India, then he can do so only after getting a prior approval from the commissioner. That is what one condition. Second condition is the goods which are imported, it has to be exported back within 3 months from the expiry of the lease agreement. You have taken these goods on lease. If the agreement of lease has expired, then within 3 months from the date of expiry, it has to be re-exported back from the same country where it is imported. That is second condition. And third condition, if there is any demand for payment of this IGST, then the importer he should be ready to pay that IGST amount. When there can be a demand, there can be a demand if there is any violation of this condition. If the importer has violated any of these conditions, then immediately the officer can issue a demand notice for this IGST part, because the exemption is no more available for that person. So he will have to ensure that by giving a bond, he has to declare that he is ready to pay if there is any demand raised by the proper officer on this IGST. If all these conditions are satisfied, then IGST is exempted on import of these items on lease basis. That is as per this notification. So we'll again continue with the types of duties. The next type of duty is protective duty. What is called as protective duty? This protective duty is some additional duty which can be levied by issue of a notification. The government has to specifically issue a notification for charging this protective duty, for levying this protective duty. The purpose of this levy is to protect the interest of the local industry. See, if you are purchasing some goods from outside India, but the same goods might be manufactured within India also, there would be a separate industry which will be manufacturing the same goods. If you are not buying the goods from these manufacturers, then they will be losing a revenue on that. In order to discourage the person from going outside India for importing that goods, they can impose some additional duty which can be called as a protective duty. This is just to protect the interest of the local manufacturers. Okay, you can clearly understand this in this way. And this protective duty can be levied as recommended by the tariff commission. There is a separate commission which works on this on arriving at the tariff for each and every item, and that tariff commission can recommend that protective duty can be levied on certain goods. If based on their recommendation, government can issue a notification. If the notification is issued, then the protective duty will be charged, and it will be charged under Schedule 1 of Customs Tariff Act. What is Schedule 1 of Customs Tariff Act? It provides you the rates of duties when there is any import of goods. Okay, that is what provided under Schedule 1. That is protective duty. Next duty is a safeguard duty. So safeguard duty is nothing but it is mostly on a product specific. Safeguard duty can be charged on product specific, and you can I will give you some additional information here. The safeguard duty can be applied by any manufacturer locally. See, if a manufacturer in a local market, if he feels that his products are not bought in by the people in local market, but in spite of buying his product, if they are preferring to go for importing the same product, then just to protect his interest, he can apply to the government to levy some additional duty on the import of that product. If that additional duty is levied, then the person who are importing those products, they may get discouraged. For that purpose, the particular person can apply to the government. That is one way. Second way is even the government can also come up on their own, and they can feel that if any product is preferred to bought from outside India, it means that there is a bigger import on that product. Then in order to discourage the persons who are importing that product, they may charge this additional duty called safeguard duty. They want to safeguard the local person who is a local manufacturer. A small difference between protective duty and safeguard duty is nothing but protective duty is they want to protect the interest of a complete industry as well. See, there it is not mostly on the product specific, it is on the industry specific. On a certain industry, they may charge this protective duty, and that duty will be charged on all the products within the industry. But this safeguard duty mostly on a product specific, and once the safeguard duty is imposed, it cannot be imposed for forever. There is a validity for imposing this safeguard duty. The safeguard duty can be imposed for a period of 4 years, which can be extended to the maximum period of 10 years. Once the safeguard duty is imposed, it can be maximum imposed for a period of 10 years. The basic period is 4 years, which can be extended for a maximum period of 10 years. That is when the safeguard duty can be levied on a particular product. Okay, and they also say that in general case, this safeguard duty will not be levied on imports done by any EOU, 100% export oriented unit, or any FTZ. FTZ is nothing but any units that are operating from a free trade zone, or any units of a SEZ, special economic zone. If any units under these categories, if they are importing that same article or same product, then safeguard duty may not be charged. That is in general case. If the government has issued a notification particularly that this product, even though it is imported by any SEZ or any 100% EOU, even though the safeguard duty will be charged, then it will be as applicable. But in general scenario, safeguard duty will not be charged or levied on the imports made by 100% EOU, FTZ or SEZ. Clear or not? Okay, this is all about safeguard duty, and we will also further discuss some other provisions under this safeguard duty. The safeguard duty can be charged on provisional basis as well. There can be a provisional safeguard duty levied by the authorities. For example, if a particular product, on that product the safeguard duty may or may not be applicable. The officer may not be knowing that when the import is actually happening. So for that purpose, they may charge the safeguard duty on provisional basis. After the safeguard duty is charged on provisional basis, they may go and assess whether really the safeguard duty is applicable. If the result of that assessment, if they say that the safeguard duty is really applicable, then the provisional duty will be adjusted on the demand. If there is any excess demand, then that will be recovered from the importer. If the result of the assessment says that the safeguard duty is not applicable, then the provisional duty which they have charged, that will be claimed as a refund, or that will be provided as the refund. This is the concept of provisional safeguard duty. The safeguard duty can be levied on a provisional basis also. Okay, and next point we'll be discussing is certain circumstances where safeguard duty will not be imposed at all. In the following circumstances, safeguard duty will not be imposed. What are those circumstances? This is very important. Please try to remember this. The first scenario is when the originating country, when the goods are where the goods are getting imported, and the originating country of those goods, if the originating country is a developing country, that is point number one. If it is a developing country and the share of imports is less than or equal to 3%, the imports which the importer is doing, it is up to 3% of the total imports by the entire economy itself, by the entire country on the total imports. If is value of import of the same article or same product, you should not refer to all the products together. If one product is getting imported, then the value of import done by this importer, the total value, if it is up to 3% of the entire import done by the country, then safeguard duty will not be applicable to that particular importer. It is importer specific as well. Even though I told you that the safeguard duty can be applied on product specific, even it can go to importer specific, person specific as well. So the value of imports done by a particular importer, if it is up to 3% of the total imports done by the entire country, then a safeguard duty will not be imposed for that particular importer. That is point number one. Point number two is if the product is imported from more than one developing country. See, here you should know that it should be from a developing country. If it is imported from more than one developing country, and the share of each and every import from each country, the value of import is up to 3%. That is first condition. And additional condition to that is the total value of the import from different countries, different developing countries, should not cross 9% of the total import. Say, I will give you an example. If you are importing a pedestal fan, if you are importing a pedestal fan from Denmark, okay, if the Denmark is a developing country, then the pedestal fan, the total value of pedestal fan which you can import during the year can be only up to 3% of the total value of pedestal fans being imported from Denmark country by the entire nation. You are one among the importer. Many importers would be importing the same pedestal fan from the same country. So from the same country, if the pedestal fans are imported and your value of import is up to 3%, then safeguard duty will not be applicable. If it crosses 3%, then SDT will be applicable on the entire value. That is first condition. Second condition, you are importing the pedestal fan from Denmark, you are importing the same pedestal fan from Australia as well. If I say that both the countries are developing countries, then the value of imports you are doing from each country, that is taking Denmark separately and Australia separately, it should not be more than 3% of the entire imports. That is first condition. Second condition, both these imports together, it should not cross 9% of the total imports. There are two conditions attached to it when the imports are done from more than one developing country. That is condition number 2. Condition number 3 is if the items are imported by 100% EOU, FTC or SEC unit, then safeguard duty will not be applicable unless specifically it is charged by the government. Okay, these are all the three scenarios where safeguard duty will not be levied at all. Okay, then we are referring here one important term which is called developing country. What is called as developing country? You need not understand any concept for this. There will be notification issued by government. On that notification they would have listed certain countries as developing country. If the country from where you are importing the product, if it has an entry in that particular notification, then that country is called as a developing country, and all these provisions which we just now discussed will apply to that import as well. Okay, so after we discuss this, since this is a very important concept, we will quickly discuss one question under this concept. The question here is, determine the safeguard duty payable by X Limited, Y Limited, Z Limited and A Limited. There are 4 importers here under section 8B of the Customs Tariff Act. You will have to compute the amount of safeguard duty. The import of sodium nitrate, they have imported sodium nitrate from developing countries as well as from developed countries. Okay, from there are bigger imports, there are so many imports, and the imports are done from developing countries as well as from developed countries from 26th February to 25th February 2016. Here they have taken 1 year time period. 1 year time period can be any 1 year. Okay, they have given in the table they have given first column the name of importer, second column is originating country, and third column is value in rupees. Here you can see that the originating country has entry of developing country as well as developed country. What is very important to note here, I told you that the 3% will be calculated on the entire imports. No, that entire imports is not only from the developing country. Entire imports done by India, total nation itself, whether or not it is from developing country or developed country, all the imports together you will have to calculate for the consider for the calculation of this 3%. So that is what provided here, and the safeguard duty applicable is 30%. Let us try to answer this question. Okay, the answer goes like this. If the import I have given a table for this. The table, first column of the table gives you the name of the importer, and the second column gives you the originating country, and the third column gives you the value, and fourth and fifth column which I have added, which gives you the percentage of imports compared to the total imports. So the total imports here, you can see that it is the total imports is 2500 crores, and 70 crores out of 2500 crores will give you the value of 2.8%. See, 2500 crores is inclusive of the items that are imported from developed country as well. See, this is nothing but it is all these imports are relevant to only sodium nitrate, one product, as I told you, one product imported from different countries by various importers, and the originating country is developing country as well as developed country. So all these concepts you should understand here. So I have calculated the percentage of imports for different importers, and it gives me that X Limited, the value of import is 2.8%. Y Limited, the value is 3.28%, which is in excess of 3%. Z Limited and A Limited are within the 3% limit. So here the safeguard duty will be applicable for whom? Safeguard duty will be applicable only for Y Limited. Why? I can tell you the total percentage of imports done from the country by all the three importers is it does not exceed 9%. Second condition is also satisfied here. First condition, each and every country it should not exceed 3%, and all the imports together from developing country, it should not exceed 9%. So if these two conditions are satisfied, so safeguard duty will not be levied on these imports. But in the case of Y Limited, he has crossed, individually has crossed the limit of 3%. So safeguard duty will be it will be levied on the imports done by Y Limited, and safeguard duty of 30% will be calculated. 30% will give you on this 82 crores will give you 24.60 crores. Yeah, that is how the answer to this question is provided. So next we will discuss a circular under this category, circular 23/2015, and it was issued on 29th of September 2015. What does this circular say? This circular says that the amount of safeguard duties that are levied, that is rebatable. It can be reclaimed as a duty drawback. It is eligible for claiming back as a duty drawback. When it is eligible, rates for duty drawback, it should not consider the safeguard duty. Okay, rates for generally whenever the drawbacks are provided, we will just quickly understand what is called as drawback. Duty drawback is nothing but in order to encourage the people to export products. Okay, so the government is providing the exporters with certain benefits, duty benefits. What is the duty benefits? They may give a particular rate or limit or some value for each and every product separately, that will be provided by separate notifications, and based on the eligibility of the exporter, on the value he has exported, he can claim a duty drawback. I told you, on exports duty will be paid, and it can be claimed as duty drawback if there are certain conditions associated to that, if that conditions are satisfied completely. Okay, so for the safeguard duties, generally the duty drawback limit which the government has already specified, it will not include the safeguard duty for that. So what the importer has to do, if the importer has suffered this safeguard duty on the products which he has imported, and the imported products has to be used in the items that are getting exported. For example, if raw material is imported by an importer and the raw material is used to convert and manufacture a final product, and that final product or product is exported by the same person, then if he has suffered any safeguard duty on the import of the raw material, he can claim that safeguard duty also as a duty drawback. For that, he has to prove to the government that one thing he has to prove is that he has suffered a safeguard duty on the imports. Second thing is, whatever the amount the items of import he has done, that items has actually got into the final product, and that final product has actually been exported. All these things has to be substantiated to the officer by the respective importer. If all these things have been done, then safeguard duty can be claimed as a duty drawback as well. Okay, if the part amount is for example, the raw material which has suffered safeguard duty, if it is one among the component of the final product, then based on the percentage proportionate basis, safeguard duty will be claimed as a duty drawback. If the product which has imported, if the same product is exported again, then he can claim the value of safeguard duty which he has paid. Only to that extent he can claim as a duty drawback. That is what provided under this circular. Okay, after this completing about this safeguard duty, let us again continue with this countervailing duty. The next type of duty is called as countervailing duty. Countervailing duty on subsidized articles. What is this duty? This duty is nothing but, if the originating country where you are importing from, if the originating country is providing some subsidy on the price of the goods, they are providing some subsidy, then the government of India will charge a duty on that particular product, which is called as countervailing duty. Because the product's value, the price of the product will become lower, right? If the originating government is providing a subsidy, then automatically the price of the product will become less, it will get reduced. If the price of the product gets reduced, what will happen? The person in India will opt only to import those products. They will not try to purchase the products locally. Then it will become a discourage for the local manufacturer. The basic intention of this customs law itself to protect the indigenous industry. It is to protect the domestic market. So for that, if a particular product gets some subsidy from the foreign government, then the Indian government will charge some additional duty, which is called as countervailing duty, and that additional duty will be charged to the maximum of the subsidy which the product has received from the foreign government. The countervailing duty cannot exceed the value of subsidy which the product has enjoyed, which the product has enjoyed from the foreign government. That is the maximum limit the countervailing duty can be charged, and almost this countervailing duty has been subsumed inside this GST. Once this GST has been implemented, this countervailing duty has subsumed inside this GST, and now we are charging IGST only on that. Okay, the final type of duty under this import duty category is anti-dumping duty. Anti-dumping duty is nothing but it is a specific duty which will be imposed on imports of certain products or imports of products from certain countries. It will be so specific. You will have a separate notification, and the notification will charge this anti-dumping duty only on certain products or imports done from certain countries. Only on that this anti-dumping duty will be charged. The basic need for this duty is nothing but if any waste of any other countries, you can see in practice, you can see that some of the countries, they may dump their waste to some different countries. Okay, if you want to clearly understand, some developed nations has their the people who are doing business, the manufacturer of some developed nations, they will have to definitely they will have to process their waste. There is something called as waste management. They will have to definitely process their waste, and it has to be processed according to the specifications provided by the respective government. So the processing of that waste may cost the particular manufacturer. Okay, if the cost of the duty, which is if the same goods are exported to India, and if the India imports that product, and whatever the customs duty the product is suffering, if that taxes which the person will be paying, if it is lesser than the waste management cost which he has to incur for processing the waste there, then what will happen? He will automatically, he wants to reduce his cost, he will try to dump the product to India. He will try to export that product to India, and India will import it, and for that it will suffer automatically, it will suffer the customs duty, any safeguard duty, whatever the protective duty. If all these duties put together, if the cost is lesser, he will try to go for that. In order to curb that practice, in order to prevent that practice being carried out, the government may charge some additional duty which is called as anti-dumping duty. They want to discourage persons from dumping some waste from that country to our country. For this purpose, anti-dumping duty will be charged. How this product, how you will try to identify that this product is a waste product and it is getting dumped into India? How will you identify that? I will tell you, if there is any electronic waste, if US is having some electronic waste and a manufacturer in US has generated so many electronic waste, and that electronic waste has to be processed. It cannot be just directly thrown away as we do in our country. It has to be processed. They have to have a proper waste management process. It has to be processed in that waste management, and the disposal has to be in a proper manner. For this purpose, the manufacturer, the particular manufacturer has to incur certain cost. When he tried to compare that cost with the duties which he has to pay, if the same product is exported into India, if we compare that, and if the this cost is seen comparatively lesser, then he may wants to choose this option instead of doing a process, waste management process in this country. He will try to export the goods and sell to some person here, and the person here will import those goods. He will pay all the duties, and he will dump that waste here. Okay, so what will happen, that goods can be identified if the value of article that are getting imported is very far lesser than the normal value on the same article. I will tell you, the product can be a laptop. If a HP laptop, I will give you some example. This is just for an example purpose, not on a normal note. So if some HP laptops are imported by some certain importer, and the normal value, the market value of the laptop is 40,000 rupees. Per laptop costs 40,000 rupees, which is well known. If the importer is importing the same laptop at 10,000 rupees, it means what? It is imported at a very lower cost than the normal cost. It is definitely, it will give you the suspect for the government that these laptops is not the normal laptops. It is these laptops are imported for the purpose of dumping the laptops in India. Okay, this can be easily identified. Otherwise what? Otherwise, any prudent businessman will not sell the product at a very lower price than the normal price. So plainly the provisions here says that if the value of the article is very less, it is lesser to the compared to the normal rate of the product, then it means that the products are getting dumped. The government will charge a duty called anti-dumping duty. Okay, so on this aspect, the CBIC will issue separate notifications on this behalf. If there is any notification issued by CBIC, then anti-dumping duty has to be levied on that particular product which are getting imported. So these are all the 7 types of duties which we discussed now under the import duties category. Now we will quickly discuss about the category of export duties. So these are all some 6 products which we discussed now, and the respective rate of duties also will discuss when these products are getting exported. The first product is called as deep oil rice bran. To say in Tamil, it is nothing but the maattu thீவனம்னு சொல்லுவாங்க தமிழ்ல. It is the cattle food. Okay, this de-oiled rice bran, if it is getting exported from India, then it has to suffer a export duty at the rate of 10%. On what product it will be suffered? It is for the grade 1 category of de-oiled rice bran. If that product is getting exported, then export duty of 10% has to be paid on that. If any leather baggages, any leather bags, processed leather or leather bags, if those items are getting exported, then a 25% of export duty has to be paid on that. If any ferrous waste or any scrap materials, if those items are getting exported, then they will have to pay an export duty of 15%. If any raw leather is exported from India, then it has to undergo an export duty of 15%. And if any snake skin is nothing but whatever the skin that is taken out from snakes, if those skins are exported, then 10% duty has to be paid on that. You can get surprised whether these products can be exported or not. Yes, these products are demanded by so many countries because there are some medicinal element on these products. Because of that purpose, so many countries may demand these products. For this purpose, the Indian businessmen or Indian persons can export these items. If these items are exported, then 10% of export duty has to be paid. If the export product is fur, that is the lamb skin, raw fur which is lamb skin, then 10% export duty has to be paid on that. So all these 6 items on that export duty is chargeable. Then we quickly discuss about the exemptions under this customs duty category. We are just going to discuss the type of exemptions. One type of exemption could be general exemption. Second type of exemption could be special exemption. General exemptions are nothing but it will be provided by way of a notification in the official gazette. A notification will be issued on this behalf, and the exemption could be on a type of a product. It could not be any specific category. it will be on a general category that some certain type of products will get certain exemptions, and those exemptions can also be a part exemptions or whole exemption. The exemption can be provided partly or wholly. This is called as general exemptions. Second category is a special exemption. This exemption are provided on a specific product and on certain specific goods. There would be so many conditions attached to that. If it is a special exemption, then it will come up with so many conditions attached to that. All those conditions are satisfied, then you can avail that exemption. That exemption is called as special exemptions. We are not going in detail about the special exemptions in this video. We may have a separate video for that purpose as well, but we are just stopping with the type of exemptions that are available under this customs law. So with this I have just concluded this discussion, at least this part 2 of the video, which is on this customs law. Okay, we can even have a part 3 of the video. On that video we can discuss on other provisions of this Customs Act. Clear? So keep just be on just subscribe to the channel or subscribe to this YouTube channel for having the access of all the videos that are getting posted here. So thank you for patient listening of this video. We can meet in any other future videos as well. So thank you.